Hello, this is the screencast of my HyperStudio stack that I created for my Unit 5 multimedia assignment. And I would really prefer to embed this because I think the features of HyperStudio are really neat, but unfortunately I can't do that. So what I'm going to do is show you the different cards, as they're called, I created for this stack, and some of the features I added to it. And so we have here my first card, and it's the title of the presentation. This is an assignment that students would have to complete. It's a choke lesson if they did not meet the learning objectives when they first did the assignment. It's also a way that a student can make up work. And so I added some features to it, and most of them are buttons. On HyperStudio, you can add a button that will do voiceovers for you. You have to title it that, though. So it'll bring you to, there are certain buttons that can bring you to websites. There are other buttons that will advance a slide from one to the next, and so on. And the ones I did were ones that were for voice recording, advancing the cards, and hyperlinks. And so I will show you on this slide how I did the voiceover. If at any point you're going through these slides, you can click on the button that says voiceover, and you can listen to what I have to say on the subject. I'm not going to click that button on the rest of the cards. I just did that to show you what I did when creating this particular stack. So let's click the next button. So it transitions here, and this is the explanation I just gave about this choke lesson. This is something, like I said before, that a student would have to do if they missed class or they did not meet the learning objectives before. So we have our next button here. We also have a previous button so that a student could go back to the slide before as well. Okay, clicking on the next button, we have our objectives that the students would need to meet. Okay, and then next we have the first slide of notes. Students will take notes and they can listen to anything that I have to add on the subject, and if they want more information they can click on this video. And I don't know if this shows up on the website or if this shows up on the video or not, but I am on a website about deviance from Education Portal. So when I clicked that, a website popped up. Then we'll click on the next slide here. So here are some definitions from the functionalist perspective. The functions of deviance, and here is more on the functionalist perspective. We also have the conflict perspective discussed on this slide, and then we have the interactionist perspective. And so students will go through this, take the notes, click on the voiceover to get more information from me, and then anytime it says a video, there's a video that adds more information to it as well. So it is very interactive. It's something where students can do some of their own things with this if they feel as though just going through the slides and taking notes is not enough. And what is nice about this HyperStudio program, especially if your district buys HyperStudio and the HyperStudio player, is that this is something you could easily share with students, and it's more interactive than the typical PowerPoint presentation or something like that I could share with students on the internet. Here's another video that I hyperlinked, and once again I don't know if this actually shows up, and oh, we have a problem. I noticed that hyperlink is no longer working. So that is something before I actually would share this with students that I'd have to fix. But I did have a functioning video hyperlinked to this, but I think it may have been from a video that has been taken off of YouTube since. So that's one of the dangers of using that. You think you're okay, and then it turns out that whoever posted it maybe didn't have permission to post it. So we'll click on the next slide. That slide was kind of going into different types of crime. This talks about the criminal justice system, how you have to go through the police, the courts, and then corrections if a person is found guilty of a crime. This slide talks about the 4 functions of corrections. And then, finally, we have a slide that are important things to know from the section on crime, but didn't really fit anywhere else in the presentation. And so there we have it, an explanation of deviance and crime as a choke lesson for students as presented through HyperStudio. Thank you for your time.